Annabelle the doll is currently on tour and buildings keep burning down around her. So if you don't know, Annabelle the doll is currently being toured around the United States on this Devils on the Run tour. The New England Society for Psychic Research is bringing her to all these haunted locations around the country so that people can get the chance to see her in real life. But people have noticed that wherever she goes, disaster strikes. For instance, the day after she left New Orleans, the largest antebellum South plantation, which is located in Louisiana, burned down with no hope of recovery. It's called the Nottaway Plantation, and it's just a horrible place. It was built in 1859 by enslaved people and held up to 150 enslaved people at a time. Also, a lot of the enslaved people that died while working the plantation were buried on the property. But recently, people noticed that it's been completely whitewashed. If you go on the website, there's nothing there that talks about the dark history of the place, and it's currently being used as a wedding venue. That is until Annabelle was there the other day and the whole thing burned down. Now, people have a bunch of different theories as to why this happened. I know the plantation itself has come forward and said that it was an electrical issue that caused the fire, but people have also mentioned that other historical buildings in New Orleans have caught fire after Annabelle left. So is it Annabelle or is it something else? She's not done on her tour. She has at least one more spot. She's going to Gettysburg, this orphanage, in July. So I guess we'll see if weird things keep happening around her.
Immediately, just down my face. Tears immediately. Like, I'm actually horrified. I'm scared as fuck. But you know what? Maybe she'll be the catalyst for the world finally ending. I hope she does it quick. I hope she does her big one fast. This is so insane. What is happening?
Y'all don't find it more than a coincidence that when they finally decide to bring this evil, demonic, ill-possessing, just Santana, I don't even know what the hell, y'all decided to bring evil, literally pure evil, to Louisiana, that in the same week 10 murderers escape from jail, prison, and a plantation house gets burnt to the ground. Plantation house that has been there since 1850s, y'all. It ain't no way that this is just a coincidence. It's no way. I know this is going to sound crazy because a lot of people don't believe in the demonic, spiritual, two-realm world. They don't believe in that. But if this ain't clear proof, then I don't know what is. Y'all mean to tell me out of anybody that could have escaped anywhere in the world, 10 murderers escaped from prison in the same place that they brought this doll? In that same week, if not a few days later, a house that's been standing for over 1,000 years burns to the ground. And the firefighters have no idea what caused the fire. Come on now, y'all, don't be naive. This is real life, actually scary as hell, because I know, again, like I said, some people don't believe in this shit, but I definitely do. And I just feel like shit like this don't happen on a regular. Mind y'all, this is in Louisiana, the home of voodoo, the home of all the spiritualistic, realistic, ritual shit. Come on now. It's really going to put the icing on the cake is, I don't know if y'all heard the story about the older black lady from down there that was trying to, like, you know, I guess cleanse Annabelle of her evil. And I don't even know. I feel crazy even speaking on it because, like, I really believe in that shit. I guess she was, like, trying to cleanse her, do like a exorcist. I don't even know what to really call it. But in the Warrens documentary explaining and talking about Annabelle, they made it very clear not to ever challenge her, not to ever, you know, try to do anything like that. This is something that is just going to contain its evil, and as long as it's put away and not bothered and not messed with, and it's where how they left it, that it should be cool. And that lady quite literally challenged Annabelle 10 times more than what she, y'all, I'm just telling y'all, if something happens to that lady, it's game over. We know what's really going on. And then I understand that they saying that this was funded by the Warrens or something like that, but this whole tour that they're taking her on, do not bring that shit to my city. I'm not fucking with it. It's saying she just arrived in Texas, so we gonna see if any crazy shit happens in Texas. We know why. Because a pattern is not coincidental.
Do you remember when Lorraine Warren said this about the Annabelle doll?
Don't ever touch anything, and if you do, let me know. This is the worst thing in here. It's that doll.
It's a story beyond belief, but the internet is convinced a haunted Raggedy Ann doll named Annabelle is to blame for the latest trouble in Louisiana. So here's the backstory. Annabelle, who inspired the movie of the same name, went on tour earlier this month after being on display at the Warrens Occult Museum. The Warrens had warned against moving Annabelle, and days later, 10 inmates escaped from Orleans Parish Jail. 5 have been captured and 5 are still on the run. That's been making headlines. And then flames ripped through Louisiana's Nottaway Plantation, destroying much of the South's largest remaining antebellum mansion. So what do you think? Is it fact or fiction? Some on the internet think fact, but of course you can decide for yourself.
So we're all finding out that 2025 is the F around and find out year because y'all made sure that Annabelle, this cursed doll, not the movie, even though this is modeled off of the movie, this doll is the movie Annabelle. But this doll, the Raggedy Ann version, is the real cursed Annabelle that should not have been taken out the box. But whoever in the marketing department, maybe for the movie, decided that, hey, we're going to take this on a ghost tour, all right? And we're going to charge people $60 to take pictures with her. They took it to New Orleans, right? And the next day, this happened. So that cursed doll, which not supposed to be moved, not supposed to be taken out the box, supposed to just leave her alone. Just let her be in her little resting place. Y'all took her little energy, shook her up. Now y'all making money and y'all profiting off this cursed doll. This cursed doll got pissed, and I believe she was like, all right, I'm about to piss y'all off. And guess what she did? She released some souls. And I believe she released some souls right up here at the Nottaway Plantation, okay? And this happened the very next day she was in the city of New Orleans, okay? That's some powerful stuff. What did we learn? F around and find out. Stop playing with cursed items. I don't care if it's for a movie promo. I don't care if it's for, ooh, spooky ghost tours. No, leave things alone. But you know what? I take it back. She released some souls because, again, my video went viral because we seen some spirits in here, and maybe it was some spirits that needed to be released. There were some enslaved people. All plantations are cursed, but this was the largest plantation, sugar plantation in the South. Some horrible things went down. A lot of people never got paid. A lot of families got tormented because of this plantation so that people can get wealthy. So if it took 166 years for a cursed doll spirit and her energy to be in that city for this to happen, shout out to Annabelle. You did your big one. You did your big one. You want to do it again? Do you want to do it again? Where should she go next? Where's her next tour? Y'all tell me. Where do you think she should go next? Because one little doll can do this with one day of being in the city. She has plenty of places she can go.
Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Fire. Woo, 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 woo. Nottaway Plantation down there right underneath Baton Rouge, home to 150-something slaves, is burning to the ground. Thank you, ancestors. Mind you, people love this God-forsaken, evil-ass place. Look at this place, it's the shit they got on this property, y'all. They got the nerve to call this fucking cursed ground a damn resort. It was owned by John Randolph. May he burn in hell continuously. And all his fucking family members. And I hope some of them on this page right now. I don't know if the ancestors wanted to remind us to keep up the good fight of faith or what. Nigga, I ain't never been so happy to see smoke billowing. God damn it. Look at the beautiful, beautiful footage. I know. Some of y'all say, Darian, this is a historical landmark. Fuck this historical landmark. Burn, baby, burn. That's where it's located. God bless you, ancestors. God knows I wish we could have been there to put something on the grill when this bitch burnt to the ground. Here's to many more burning up. Fire.
Stay with me because there is some things about this resort and 4-star hotel that burned down that nobody is talking about, and my jaw was literally on the floor. It's very clear that it being a museum is not its main focus. It does seem like they've started giving tours again, but this is for weddings and events. They do have a history tab and a drop-down menu. The only thing you're going to find is a list of 16 majestic oak trees that are found on the property. These oak trees are named, and for a brief moment I was like, oh, are they named after enslaved people? Is this like a memorial? No, it's named after the 11 children of the enslaver. As I was combing through trying to find any information on the enslaved people here, this tab for cottages underneath where you can stay caught my eye. Each cottage has 2 individual units with a single covered porch and oversized rocking chairs, and it's like, oh my god, how tasteless to have something like that on the property given the history. No, I don't think these are fresh cottages. I think they repurposed cabins on site with welcoming beds and full amenities. Oh, thank God. Thank God my slave cabin comes with a hairdryer and an iron. There's at least one of these still around, but this is an unmarked photo. There is no information about this photo. In fact, the only time I saw anything that had anything to do with a person of color were these god-awful candelabras. With this burning down, we lost a haunted wedding venue at best, and it seems like a place that was literally like Airbnb-ing slave cabins. So
You broke down, huh? They didn't. She didn't break down. They didn't. Oh, they most definitely didn't. Look like Black History to you? Let that bitch burn.
I used to be a tour guide at Nottaway Plantation. Nottaway was not talking about history properly. They regularly threatened my job because I was, quote, too emotional about the historical context and slavery there. I was there from 2017 till 2020 when COVID hit. The amount of ridiculous nonsense that I had to talk about on that tour was overwhelming. Dutch people, when they came in, because there were thousands of people from all around the world that would come in, the Dutch people knew more about the history of the transatlantic slave trade than the majority of people that worked at the plantation. I'm glad it burned down. Make no mistake. The type of history that they were teaching there was a bunch of just headline stuff. It was a bunch of buzzword stuff. I mean, honestly. I'm in Facebook groups and looking at people's posts about it being burned down, and the only thing that they're talking about is, this architecture. Oh, did you know that they would hide jewelry in the bedpost? Oh, did you know that these curtains were reproductions of the ones from Gone with the Wind? And the way that the script for the tour was written was framing John Randolph as a slave owner who wasn't that bad. He was nice, blah, blah, blah. And I absolutely refused to talk about that. I went against the grain. I even upset somebody to the point where they told me that calling him a shyster was racist. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, he was a shrewd and calculating businessman who put profit above all else, including his own family. And he was a coward who ran away to Texas whenever the war started. There's all this mythology about how, the lady of the house went out one time, and the reason why the house was saved is because she had a knife under her skirt and she was ready to kill those people, blah, blah, blah. She went ahead and said that they could stay there as long as they kept it up. There's zero proof or evidence of any of that. There are tons of paintings all around the house where they're like, this was the family, this was the family, this was the daughter, this was that. And like, none of it is true. None of it is true. I remember whenever the news stations from all around the country were calling plantations and asking them to make a comment on the Knot, that wedding magazine, removing plantation weddings from their advertisements. And I couldn't give any sort of statement, but I went off record and went off. So yeah, I'm glad Nottaway's gone. Nobody who's actually owned it really cared for the actual real history of stuff out there. And they really just wanted to be able to continue charging people $50,000 plus for weddings there. Which also, shame on you if you think that that's a good place to have a wedding. You're an idiot. And no, the house itself was not haunted, but the grounds were absolutely cursed.
This is the Nottaway Plantation in Louisiana. It is the largest antebellum house in the South. And it is surprising that it's still standing because if you don't know, most of the homes in the South, especially the plantation homes, were burned to the ground during the Civil War. So this home standing is important, I guess, but it's the largest one because the owner was so wealthy. So it was built in 1859 by John Handon Randolph. He came from a family that was from Mississippi that were cotton farmers. They owned a plantation and they owned slaves. Okay, so they were slave owning family that was able to make their money off of the backs of black people. There were 155 people that were registered that worked at this property. Now, I need to be very clear with people. 155 people that were listed. That does not mean, for any sense of the word, that that's the only people that were on that property. That just means that that's the people that they were willing to list as an asset. Now, this might have a little AI in it, but this is what it looks like currently, or at least of a few hours ago. So it caught on fire, and we are also very happy about this. But let me explain, because people might think, but it's history. You just said it's the largest house and it actually survived the Civil War. You would think. The reality is that most of the plantations in the United States are being currently used as a historical site where you can go have self-guided or tour-guided tours. And they are also doing weddings and proms at these places. Yes, you heard me correctly. Weddings. So I guess if you're morally bankrupt enough and you choose to go to one of these properties, you can decide to have your wedding there and dance on the, the ground that probably has the bones of slaves underneath it. Because if there's one thing I know about every single plantation tour I've been to, while they often have family cemeteries, I have never, not one time, seen a cemetery for the slaves, not even the ones that they claim to love so much. So this is Boone Hall. Boone Hall is in North Carolina. This is also the location that Alex Haley's Queen was recorded in. There's like this circular staircase in the center that there's like this very famous scene that she comes down and she slides off of the banister. In that movie, Halle Berry is a mixed woman. And this is at the conclusion of the Civil War and what she has to go to. She's barely passable. And so she's treated a little bit differently, but she still finds out in the end that black is black to these people. This is also something else that is very, very famous for. These trees have been here forever. And it's very interesting. They actually have a network of roots underneath. They are all connected to each other. It's really kind of cool how they work, but this is also it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. The house is behind. This is going towards the exit. Now, the thing that bothers me the most about this is how, when you go to these tours, how they intentionally try to shine the turd of slavery and make it seem like it wasn't so bad. So on the other side of these trees, what is not pictured is there is a row over here of brick homes. And let me show those to you. They look like this. Now, at the very beginning, somewhere over here, or maybe unless the photo's flipped over there, at the beginning of one of these sides, there is a plaque for the self-guided tour. And you hit the button, it starts to talk to you, and it says, he loved his slaves so much that he would put them in here. And it was, you know, when people would come down that long driveway and they would see these long row of brick homes and they were filled with happy, healthy slaves, they would assume that this person was a good slave owner. So here's my thing. People do not try to put on a facade for something unless they're trying to, you know, talk you into believing the opposite of who they are. So I have all reason to believe that this family was full of sexual assaulting rapists who are more than happy to beat and harm human beings. Let's just keep it what it is. We ended up not staying here very long because I was so fucking offended by the time that we got done. I couldn't sit there any longer. Almost on every one of those homes, there's a plaque of some kind because, like I said, they do self-guided tours as well as the tour guided tours. This very first house was dedicated to their cook. Now, you can pause this if you want to, and you can go ahead and read it through. There's only two things in this long plaque. They have her there because she was a cook and she was dedicated to the family and they liked the way that she fed them. 90% of this plaque is, she did all this stuff for us, and that's why we put her in that brick house. What I took away from it was this. Do you see how there's a question mark around her birth? Also, she was brought to Boone Hall in 1864, remained here as a cook until her death in 1936. She was the youngest of 18 children. So let me tell you the truth about the history that they aren't wanting to dive into. Her mother was probably at a breeding farm. Slaves were often, if they were fertile and producing good children, they would send them to breeding farms where they were chained to beds, sexually assaulted, held there until they birthed, and then repeated. The other thing is that they say that she remained here as the cook until her death in 1936. Understand, there were a lot of slaves who didn't know where to go when slavery ended. They didn't know where to go. They had no idea, and they were still being treated poorly. North, south, east, west, black people were still being treated poorly. So many of them stayed. Also, there's no record of where this woman's buried. So she lived, worked, and died on this plantation, and this was the most that they could do for her. In addition to that fuckery, there were baskets that were, when you walked inside of the very first one, there were baskets on the table, and this was one of them. And like every little thing was pissing me off. Enslaved women were, by necessity, they make it sound nice, were very resourceful. They weren't resourceful out of necessity of scarcity. They were resourceful out of necessity so they don't become unalived because there was something they couldn't do. Okay? They homespun fabric into clothes for their families and used these covered baskets to store their sewing things. it was just, now this is a Moses basket, and they try to make it sound like something it isn't. But the only thing that really bothered me in here, that really pissed me off, do you see the slang in here? They're talking about a song that they sang for the basket, and they use this broken English because that's what they had to do to learn to speak to each other. They don't tell you that, right? None of that. Then they try to say there's another plaque, or maybe it was a button that you push, and you push the button. Yeah, it was a button push. And it starts to say the slaves were often treated better than even the owners were. They often had better clothing and better food than the slave owners because it was important for them to make sure that their property was taken care of. So they had full cabinets, fully closed, smiles on their faces. There was a wood burning area, for a fire and stuff like that. Like, the lies that these people told. And then it got worse. At the very end of everything, there was this area where people were gathering around and they were listening to an elder Black woman tell stories. They were talking over her. They were not listening to her. And I was getting very agitated. You see this lovely woman down here, and you see this Galagihi. The people that were brought to this area were coming from many different areas, and they had to develop their own language, and they melted customs and things like that, and they developed their own fucking culture and people outside of all of the bullshit of the South. If you see over here in the bottom down here, this is the area that they primarily were a part of, 3 states wide. Now, we had a woman who was doing this, and she was explaining to people slave songs and that why they were and why people used them and things, and nobody was fucking listening to this woman. And it was literally one of the most disrespectful fucking scenes I've ever seen. And so my husband and I had to leave immediately because I was going to start cussing people out. So in conclusion, the plantations that are left are problematic. Nobody needs to be having birthday parties and fucking weddings in these locations. It's disgusting. My ancestors are very happy that this very large house, which is just a symbol to the nastiness and grotesqueness of slavery, is burned to the ground. I don't think a single one of us give a fucking shit. Nobody should care. Nobody should care. We should be glad it's going to be gone. But I promise you, the family's going to build something on this ashes, and then they're going to market that as another location to have weddings. Dancing on the graves of my ancestors.